In F1 2019, you'll be invited to start your career by selecting a Formula 2 team. Driving for this team, you'll experience some key moments of a Formula 2 season, a thrill-packed racing championship in its own right, and the springboard to Formula 1. At the end of this feeder series, your choice of driver academy and your performance in F2 will determine the terms of the contracts offered by the teams as you embark upon your career in Formula 1 and begin to write your own chapter of motorsport history.
Dam's new driver really commanding the race here. Devon Butler still ruthlessly giving chase. These two have been really scrapping it out for the early wins in the championship. And something's wrong. Butler sees his chance. Some kind of mechanical failure. Picking up speed again. It's unclear what the issue was. Can they still finish this race?
Looks like an issue with the turbo. You've lost some speed at the top end, but you're very close to the finish. You can still compete and get some points here. Don't give up. Just do the best you can. We're all behind you. Is approaching and wants to get past. Repeat, Lucas wants to pass you. That's great. Lucas could push on now. Lucas wants me to pass on his thanks. I know it's frustrating, but you made the right call for the team. Now we're all with you. Just bring it home as best you can. pass. This is your final lap of the race. The gap behind us is 6.6 seconds. Good finish. You stepped up and achieved what we asked. Good job.
So another fantastic victory for Dams today. Davide, what do you think made the difference here?
I think what won them the race was their ability to adapt. At every point, they delivered what was needed. They were calm and steady when they needed to be, but they were ruthless and aggressive when it was demanded of them. There wasn't anything out there that they weren't prepared to handle. Let's see if they can keep it up this season.
And I can see our drivers making their way out now. It's been a sublime team performance, and it's the culmination of a lot of hard work. Dams are your winners today. And now, let's take a look at the driver's standings. It was not the best weekend for our championship leader, and their advantage at the top has been reduced. And so, driver of the day then, Davide Valsecchi, who do you think you'd go for?
Well, after a drive like that, it's got to be Alessio Lorandi. Very clean, very smooth. He can be really pleased with that one.
And now a look at the team standings. Dams moved to the top of the table. After all this drama, you'd be mad not to join us for the next race. We hope to see you then. Take care.
There you are. That was an exciting race. It definitely got people talking about you, which means I was able to secure a quick interview.
Okay, we're all set over here.
Just a minute. Remember, anything you say to the press can go very, very public. So be relaxed, but also be conscious of what you're saying and how it might come across to other people, okay? I think we're ready.
Great. So Emma keeps telling me you're the one to watch this season. If that's true, you'll be doing plenty of these. Just remember, be yourself. And the more you can give me, the better this will go. Right, stand here. Turn a little this way for me. Perfect. Ready? An exciting race today. Let's get your perspective. So you and Lucas are new to the team. How are you settling in? Okay, so how did you feel about being ordered to give up the position to Lucas? Great. Well, that's everything.
Hey, look. I know that wasn't easy letting me pass, but it was the right choice. It was good driving.
Yeah, that's how I describe it, mate. Just good, not great. 1 in 6. 1 in 6 makes the leap to F1. The other 5 are still watching their less talented teammates collect all their points. Shame, really. A lot of great drivers never get their chance because they do it all for the team.
Those teams got us here.
Yeah, but it's the drivers that take the risk. We should get the rewards. You ever won a race in F1? That's how winners think.
And remind me, how many F1 races have you won?
Watch this space. At the end of this championship, I'll be the one lifting the trophy, and I won't use my teammates to nick the podium.
Okay, I'm out. You believe what you want, Devon, but it's still early days.
He's either very clever or you're just a pushover. You really think if the situation was reversed, he'd do the same for you? You want to start looking out for yourself. No one else will.
Look at them go! Devon Butler locked in wheel-to-wheel racing with his championship rival, desperate to shut them down and stop them getting past. And there's contact. Butler simply left them nowhere to go. There was just no way for them to have avoided that. And look, there's significant damage. Not sure if that was down to recklessness or sheer aggression, but I'm sure the stewards are going to have something to say very shortly.
Don't give up. You're still in this race. Okay, the stewards have awarded Devon a penalty. Push on. You can still catch him. You can still beat him. Devon is in the pits. Devon in the pits. Devon's currently in P5. Devon's currently in 6th place, P6. Devon is a couple of places up on you. Butler is ahead of you. Devon is ahead of you. The track is clear. Green flag, nice move. Good job. themselves currently in P9. Devon's in P10 at the moment. That puts you into P2, second place. Well done, good finish. You stepped up and achieved what we asked. Good job.
A great win then for the Dams team today. So, Davide, what did you make of that?
Well, it was a bit of a roller coaster, I think. There will be a lot of cheering for today's win. Frankly, I'm amazed that Devon Butler only received a penalty for that collision earlier. But watching the rival he knocked out actually come back and beat him, that made this whole race worthwhile for me.
Dams, another team with a huge amount of history based right in the heart of motorsport near Le Mans in France, have once again shown their formidable abilities out on the track with yet another win today. After this round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the drivers' table. There's been a lead change at the top of the championship after a superb performance. And now, Davide Valsecchi, let me ask you, who is your driver of the day?
I have to give it to Roberto Meri. Was probably one of his best drivers of the season, and I was very impressed.
And now a look at the team standings. Dams move to the top of the table. Meanwhile, good work from Campos this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. Goodbye for now then. But we really are just getting started. Make sure you join us again for Lights Out tomorrow.
Amazing performance out there. I'm sure you're pretty happy with that. Well, that was a great recovery today. Did you think it was all over when you had the collision with Devon? So did you ever think you'd get the place back from Devon? I've seen that you and Lucas have been picking up a lot of points recently. What do you think of your championship chances? Well, thanks anyway.
Ah, I was looking for you. Well, what can I say? I guess there's no other way to put this, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry for ever giving you the common respect that all racers deserve, because you don't deserve it, neither of you do. That was the dirtiest driving I've ever seen.
Ridiculous.
My thoughts exactly. I'm taking my line and I get smashed into? I'm fine, by the way, thanks for asking me. And then I'm penalized for the privilege.
You're unbelievable. You deserved every second of that penalty, maybe more. I mean, aside from trashing the car, did you ever stop to think that maybe someone could get hurt?
Yeah. Me?
Fine, but winning at any cost is your strategy, not ours. You better watch yourself.
Whatever.
Don't let him get in your head. He knows you're a better driver. So, on the track, stay away from him. He will try to force you into contact. That's how he wins, yeah? Let's get ready for the press briefing.
So here we are in Abu Dhabi. Each and every event in the Formula 2 calendar has led us here, to this, the final event of the championship, and one that promises to be a spectacle every bit as exciting as we might have hoped. So the Yas Island circuit offers 21 corners and a lap distance of around 3.4 miles. There are a few opportunities to pass with long straights and DRS zones in 2 places, turns 8 and 11. Plenty of close racing then, plenty of speed, and plenty of excitement for the fans, no doubt. Joining me for one last time here this year is Davide Valsecchi. Davide, I'm glad you're here, because I think I'm going to need help processing all this. Surely, this is as exciting as it gets.
Yeah, you're right, Alex. It's the perfect finale. 2 drivers, rivals of season, now going into the final race tied on points. Both way out in front at the top of the standings, meaning whichever of these 2 drivers cross the line first will be crowned champion. I can't wait.
Okay, this is it. Last race of the season. All you have to do is finish in the points ahead of Devon, and the next time we see each other, you'll be the F2 World Champion. No pressure then. Good luck. this overtake. That's a good start. Keep it up. Devon's P7 at the moment. Damage. Currently in 6th place, P6. Devon's currently in 6th place, P6. Devon's currently in P5. Devon's currently in P5. Devon's in P4 at the moment. Good job. That was the fastest lap of the race so far. Devon's in P4 at the moment. Is in P3. Devon is in P3. Devon is in P3. Devon is in P3. This is your final lap of the race. Devon is in P3. finish. You stepped up and achieved what we asked. Good job.
It's been my privilege over the years to witness a number of great sporting events, and here's another to add to that prestigious list. It's the ultimate dream for any racing driver. We have a new Formula 2 World Champion. It's a well-deserved victory for Dams then, after that breathtaking race. Talk to me, Davide. Was it everything you hoped for?
Everything and more. He had it all. The rival, the tension, the excitement. These two drivers have been locked in fierce competition all season. And to see it comes down to head-to-head battle for the line like this, well, this kind of things doesn't happen very often. Devon put in a good performance throughout the championship, but today the accolade goes to his rival and the new Formula 2 champion.
That result also seals the Formula 2 World Championship title. Congratulations to our winner after an incredible season. We see a new name at the top of the championship table as we reach the end of the race weekend. Now then, Davide Valsecchi, who would you say was your driver of the day?
I think I'm going to award it to the Dams driver. They demonstrated a very delicate touch in the wheel-to-wheel situation. They showed maturity and patience.
Where Dams have taken the team's championship title. They are this year's Formula 2 team champions. And after all that excitement, I think it's time for a lie down. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you when Formula 2 returns.
First of all, congratulations. You must be thrilled. Wow, you're the driver's champion. How does it feel? So that was a thrilling end to the season. How was the race? Wow, we've been hearing rumours of a possible future for you in Formula 1. Care to comment? Appreciate your time.
Congratulations, mate. F2 champion.
Hey, congratulations. Enjoy it, because it's the last time it'll ever happen.
Devon, it's okay to be upset. You came very close.
Hey, we know things would have turned out very differently if I didn't get slapped with that ridiculous penalty.
What is it with you and complaining?
Look, somehow you managed to do a lot of things right today. It's great. You needed the win, I didn't. For me, this was always just a stepping stone to F1. Oh, you two. You got your work cut out for you now that I'm gone. See, you're going to have to prove to everyone it was more than just luck that got you here.
Sure. Winning one race is luck. Winning the championship is talent.
Really? Next time you use that incredible talent to ram into someone and steal all their points, remember they won't be as forgiving as I am. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I got to run. Things to sign, important paperwork and all that. I'm sure you understand. Ciao!
So, with this big win, you're going to be getting a lot of interest. All I can say is choose wisely, or else you might end up with someone like Devon as your teammate. Come on, let's go celebrate.
Ah, welcome. Come on in. Take a seat. It's time we had the big conversation about your next move. Your performance at the F2 Championships last year got you a lot of attention from the Formula One teams. Some of it more positive than others. I'm not so concerned with who does or doesn't like you. You'll have plenty of time to win the doubt is over. But I am concerned with our choices. They're narrowing as we haven't shown commitment to anyone. Now, as your agent, my advice is to make your decision now. We can worry about comfort and finer points further down the line. I need you to review these. You've earned every single one of these proposals. So take your time, have a read through, and don't get too hung up on specifics. Let's get you a Formula One seat. Excellent choice. From my conversations with them, they're going to be very excited to pursue this opportunity with you. I'll let them know our intentions immediately. I'll have to clean up some final details with them, but that's what you pay me for. Other than that, congratulations. You've earned it.
Oh, hey, you're here. I'll catch up with you. Sorry, I'm just on my way out, but your workstation's at the back over there. It should be all set up on the network, but let the guys know if it isn't. From there, you can access all the data you need to help us direct development of the car. Get yourself settled, and then head out to practice when you're ready. I'll catch up with you later, okay?
Welcome to your new team. Toro Rosso are famed for nurturing promising talent and kick-starting the careers of exciting drivers, from Vettel to Sainz to Ricciardo. But they're much more than that. This is a strong team that expects regular points finishes. Winning rivalries is a great way to earn respect from your team and around the paddock, which will help make it easier to negotiate favourable contracts. Your first rival is always your teammate, but you can choose who to declare as your second. The harder the rival from the eligible selection, the more respect you stand to gain or lose depending on the result.
Welcome to Melbourne and the inaugural event of the F1 2019 Championship season. The session is starting shortly and there's a real sense of anticipation in the air. A feeling that anything can happen this year, and if it does, well, this weekend could be the opening chapter to one of the most exciting F1 seasons ever. Joining me in the commentary box is, of course, Anthony Davidson. And it's great to have you back again. What can you tell us about this year's roster? There are some new faces this year, aren't there?
Absolutely, Crofty. There's been a number of interesting signings over the last few months. Where would you like to start?
Let's talk about Mia.
Right, well, this is definitely someone to keep an eye on. Well, they've been signed up likely in no small part due to the way they carried themselves in the Formula 2 Championship. They have a great track record of putting the team first. At one of the races, they even gave up their own position when their car had a technical issue, so that their teammate, Lucas Weber, who also debuts here today, could get ahead. that kind of team spirit could take them a long way this season.
Those two aren't the only new faces from Formula 2 this season, are they?
No, this season will introduce fans to George Russell and Lando Norris, two very promising young British drivers. Plus, we'll meet Alexander Albon from Thailand, and finally, Devon Butler. Now, Devon was a bit of a controversial figure in Formula 2 last year. He racked up a lot of penalties over the course of the season, including one where he collided with his closest rival. It was an arsey clip. Now, certainly after the event, they were nothing but professional in terms of how they spoke about the incident with Devon, but it's hard to imagine them being as polite about it behind closed doors. I think this rival will be one to keep an eye on over the next few races, as both drivers take their first steps into the world of Formula 1.
This first race of the season is always quite difficult for us trackside, and for those back at the factory as well, as it's the first time the car has run since winter testing. The more consistent mileage you can get in these sessions, the happier we'll be. This is a quali sim. We've estimated the times our closest rivals will be doing, so that's what we need to beat. Good lap. We've hit our primary target time. We're happy with that. Test complete, and that was a very good job indeed. We got a lot of valuable information out of that. Be careful with the front wing, you've taken some minor damage. Car repairs have set us back a little.
The session has drawn to a close, so let's review our...
Good day today. Let's have your take on it. It's been a lot of hard work, but here you are. So how are you finding things at the team? Are you settling in? What are you expecting out of this season? Are you... Great. Well, that's everything.
New drivers, new cars, it's a new Formula One season. But it's the same Albert Park that we've come to know and love for more than 2 decades now that plays host to round 1 of a 21-race championship that takes us from here in Australia, across the globe, and the eventual season finale at the Yas Island Circuit in Abu Dhabi. Just south of Melbourne's downtown business centre is the one and only Albert Park Circuit. 3.3 miles of public roads, closed for the weekend of course, make for a bumpy circuit with little undulation. There are 16 corners around the lake and a couple of good passing opportunities here as well, thanks in part to the DRS zones into turns 1, 3 and 13. We have plenty of changes to the sport this year with tweaks to the regulations, a fresh-looking spread of tyre compounds, and of course some changes to the roster of car manufacturers. It's goodbye to Sauber and hello once again to the classic name of Alfa Romeo in Formula One. It's also goodbye to Force India. They've been rebranded as Racing Point. Joining me to take you through all the action of the 2019 Formula One season is Anthony Davidson. And it's great to have you with us.
Thanks, Crofty. Always happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to getting underway. Last year was Mercedes' 5th Constructors' title in a row, although for the first half of the season it was absolutely neck and neck with the Ferraris. Hopefully this year we can see the chasing pack take that final step, as I'd love to see a championship contest all the way up to the final race in Abu Dhabi. Another story to keep an eye on is the performance of Red Bull, who have switched to the Honda power unit this year. What that will mean for both their performance and reliability remains to be seen.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Vettel, Alexander Albon and Verstappen, Sainz, Magnussen, Norris and Devon Butler, Faber, Grosjean, Kimi Raikkonen and Stroll, Perez, Gasly, Daniel Ricciardo and Robert Kubica, Russell and Mir. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Not the best place to be at the start of a new season, so let's make sure we show the team what we can do. That's a strong start. Well done. that front wing. It'll need replacing if it takes too much damage. DRS is being enabled this lap. We can use DRS when you are within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone. Take it easy on the car. We can't sustain this level of damage. Leading our teammate by 3.5 seconds. We're approaching the pit window. You'll be on the mediums. clear. Window open. Let's box this lap. The gap to the car ahead is 2.0 seconds. Remember, box this lap. Keep an eye on your distance to the speed limit line as you approach, and make sure you don't speed. Exit now. You'll be racing as you leave the pit. Look after these tyres now. We want to finish the race on this compound. We pretty much burned off our excess fuel. We'll be back on target soon. Don't wait too long to turn the engine down. Caution. Caution, yellow flags ahead. No overtaking through the caution zone. Be careful until you see the greens. Okay, clear. Is in for his stop. Gap to car in front is 2.1 seconds. Car ahead has come in to fit the mediums. Car ahead, now running medium tyres. Has boxed for the mediums. Car behind on the medium tyre. We have 5 laps of fuel remaining. We're starting to catch the car in front, but we need to look after the tyres. We won't be making another pit stop. Laps of fuel remaining. To teammate behind is 19.3 seconds. Okay, careful with the overtakes. That was very risky. We could have received a penalty. Green flag. Okay, gap ahead is 5.1 seconds. We've only got 2 laps of fuel left. That was the fastest lap of the race. Keep this up. Hamilton has the lead. Our gap to the car in front is 10.2 seconds. Good job, you did really well. Super driving.
The Mercedes team pulled out a fantastic performance today. They should be proud. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection. A shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again. So let's review the updated drivers' standings. Lewis Hamilton takes the lead of the Drivers' Championship. Let's focus on the driver of the day. Anthony Davidson, who do you pick?
I have to give it to Mia. That was a commanding performance today. Very impressive indeed.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Mercedes moved to the top of the table. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time? Be sure to join us again as we continue to bring you the latest excitement in Formula One.
Good day today. Let's have your take on it.
You gained a lot of positions during the race, didn't you? You're breaking all expectations. What's your secret? It wasn't the cleanest race today, was it? You left a lot of paint on the walls today. Were you struggling for grip, or did you just misjudge some corners?
Great. Well, that's everything.
Great work. That's exactly the kind of result I'm looking for. Keep it up. Looks like one of your rivals has also been invited to a historical event. This could be a good opportunity to play up your rivalry for the press and expand your reputation. You're not the only driver to be hounded by the press. Emails, like the one I've just sent you, will give you an insight on how your former Formula 2 rivals are handling the press. Be sure to check your emails regularly, as I'll be sure to send you any of the more, let's say, interesting press transcripts that come my way.
Practice sessions are vital for the continuing development of the car, but if you need to, you can choose to simulate the session instead. It won't be as effective as having you behind the wheel directly, but it's better than missing the session entirely. If it were me, this is probably what I'd invest in.
The curtain rises once more then on the desert stage of Sakir as the players take their places for the opening act. Will they enthrall us like they did in 2014 with that titanic battle between Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton? Well, we'll find out shortly as we get underway here in Bahrain. We go racing today around 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit, with 15 corners and 2 good passing opportunities into turns 1 and 4. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left tyre into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. And it's an absolute pleasure to be joined once again by Anthony Davidson. Let's talk briefly about Lando Norris. They're still relatively new to a sport which does have a high learning curve and, of course, little tolerance for mistakes.
And this is something that has ended the career of many a young driver, as that leap up to Formula One proves to be too much. But luckily in this case, I'd say they're doing a good, solid job, and the risk the team took in signing them is definitely starting to pay off.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Vettel, Leclerc, Alexander Albon, and Magnussen, Sainz, Perez, Norris, and Kimi Raikkonen, Hamilton, Grosjean, Lance Stroll, and Butler, Gasly, Weber, Daniel Ricciardo, and George Russell, Kubica, and Mir. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Now that we've got some points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish. That start was okay, now stay alert for threats around you. race officials have enabled DRS. DRS is now available. Leading our teammate by 5.6 seconds. Okay, good work. Great pass. You've moved up to 5th, that's P5. We're approaching the pit window, you'll be on the mediums. The gap to the car ahead is 3.9 seconds. Great work. That's a new fastest lap for the race. Bottas is out in front. Boxing this lap. Give us the best in lap you can. Okay, clear. We expect the grip levels to start falling away soon. Box this lap, please. To run in this engine mode much longer. We're about a lap over target. Drop down to mix 2 soon. Pierre is in the pits. tyres boxed for the mediums. Car behind on the medium tyre. There's 5 laps of fuel remaining. Go, exit now. We're racing on the exit. Exit now. Strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now. Great maneuver. You made it look easy. There's 4 laps of fuel remaining. Is out of the race. Dropped out of the race. 2 laps of fuel remaining. Gap to car in front is 10.4 seconds. Leclerc's in first place. This is your final lap of the race. There's only 1 lap of fuel remaining. Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
Ferrari have really pulled it out of the bag today. It's a great win. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
Well, I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out on the track was today: speed. I know it sounds like an obvious thing to say, Crofty, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
Here come our winners now. A thrilling race and a tremendous effort by Ferrari. Their history is well known, so it's no surprise to fans the world over to see them come out on top once again. So, let's review the drivers' standings. This result narrows the gap between our championship leader and the rest of the standings. Some amazing talent out on the track today, but Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
I have to give it to Mia. That was a commanding performance today. Very impressive indeed.
Let's move on to the constructors. The lead at the top comes down after a strong weekend from the challenging pack. Meanwhile, a strong weekend from Red Bull this time out, and they improve their position in the championship. Well, that was certainly an incredible weekend of racing. Be sure to join myself and Ant for more exciting Formula One action soon.
Amazing performance out there. I'm sure you're pretty happy with that.
You were cutting your way through the field during the race. You really looked in control of your car out there. Your team must be thrilled. Do you have any comments about the collisions? That was a good race for Lucas. Are you pleased to see him doing well?
Great. Well, that's everything.
That's a great result. You did really well. I don't think we can have any complaints with that performance.
Here you can see a list of eligible drivers to declare as your rival. The more challenging they are to beat, the more the paddock will respect you for succeeding. Just be aware, you'll lose the same amount of respect if you come off second best, so it may be wise not to be overly ambitious.
It's time to find out which driver is up to the task of claiming the Chinese Grand Prix. We're here in Shanghai. We're here in the Yangtze River Delta today, home of the 16 corners that make up the Shanghai International Circuit. 54% of this 3.3-mile lap is taken at full throttle, and we'll be getting up to speeds of around 200 miles an hour, with DRS assisting the cars down the back straight before they brake into the sharp hairpin at turn 14. Anthony Davidson also joins me in the commentary box today. Let's talk about Mia. As with all the drivers at this level, they have a lot of ambition. But Formula One's a daunting step up from any other series, so expectations are high right from the start.
That's right, it is a difficult environment to come into. In junior categories, you're competing against drivers with similar levels of experience. But some of these guys in Formula One have been there for over a decade. But I have to say, in this case, it's so far so good.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Bottas, Devon Butler and Perez, Sainz, Albon, Leclerc and Lance Stroll, Ricciardo, Gasly, Lando Norris and Magnussen, Grosjean, Weber, Kimi Raikkonen and Robert Kubica, Russell and Mir. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
You're lower on the grid than we wanted. See to it that we improve throughout the race. Start. Clear. was far too aggressive. Clean passes only. We don't want a penalty. We're approaching the pit window. You'll be on the hards. That front wing. It'll need replacing if it takes too much damage. Okay, the incident has been cleared. Let's get back up to racing speed. Take it easy on the car. We can't sustain this level of damage. In this lap, push now. Box, box, box. Are you alright? Engine off, engine off. Go, go, go. You'll be racing on the exit. Release, release. That was our last stop. No more scheduled pit stops. Target is +1. Faster engine modes are available. Green flag. We're racing again. Pierre is in for his stop. Gap to the car behind is 1.7 seconds. Guys moving to mix 2, fuel to mix 2. Okay, watch the aggression, please. We don't want to lose places because of a penalty. The track is clear. Green flag. Verstappen has the lead. We have 5 laps of fuel remaining. Gap to teammate behind is 10.1 seconds. There's 4 laps of fuel remaining. We're catching the car ahead, but be aware that these tyres need to last till the end of the race. We've only got 2 laps of fuel left. Verstappen's out in front. This is your final lap of the race. Okay, some information on Perez. They have an issue with their car. They're going to be slow. There's only one lap of fuel remaining. Some information on Kubica. It looks like the problem is terminal. They're retiring the car. Thank you for all your hard work out there. That was a strong drive and a good finish. Well done.
It was a magnificent race and a drive right out of the top draw to take the win for Red Bull today. Talk to me, Ant. What was it that set them apart from the competition today?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently. It's clear to see that they've put in the work, and they should be proud of the victory they secured here. Let's have a quick look at how the driver's standings have changed. And with today's impressive results, Charles Leclerc steps into the championship lead. After an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
I have to give it to Mia. Look at where they finished compared to where they started. It's not easy to cut through the field like that in Formula 1, so it was a great effort.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. Ferrari take the lead at the top of the table. Meanwhile, a strong weekend from Red Bull this time out, and they improve their position in the championship. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula 1.
Great work out there today. Let's have your thoughts.
You really cut your way through the field today. What was your strategy? Your team must be ecstatic with how you're performing. Some excellent overtaking moves from your former teammate. It's the start of the season. How do you think things are going to go for you? Appreciate your time.
Good afternoon and welcome to Baku. This was the arena, if you think back to 2017, of one of the most eventful races of modern history, with controversy behind the safety car, last-second overtakes, and a historic podium for Williams and for Lance Stroll. So let's find out what lies in store for us this year. It's time for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Baku City Circuit then, an unpredictable 3.7-mile track around the streets of the Azerbaijan capital. 20 turns for our drivers to navigate today, including the infamous Turn 8, one of the tightest and most challenging corners of the season. Anthony Davidson, thanks for joining me once again for the Grand Prix. Let's talk about Mia. They're still relatively new to a sport which does have a high learning curve and, of course, little tolerance for mistakes.
And unfortunately, I don't think they're meeting those expectations at this point. The team took a gamble on a new driver, and so far it's not paying off. Excuses don't last long in this sport, so I hope that they're able to find some improvement soon.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, and starting alongside in P2 is Sebastian Vettel. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Verstappen, Sergio Perez, and Stroll, Grosjean, Raikkonen, Weber, and Kevin Magnussen. Norris, Hamilton, Alexander Albon, and Ricciardo, Sainz, Gasly, Robert Kubica, and Mia. Butler, they've taken a grid penalty, and George Russell ends our grid lineup. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Our grid position is not as high as we had hoped, but push hard in the race and hopefully with a bit of luck, we can finish with a positive... That's a decent start. Good job. Good job, nice overtake. Okay, entering lap 3 now. DRS has been enabled. made it look easy. We're approaching the pit window. You'll be on the softs. Okay, box. Take it easy on the car. We can't sustain this level of damage. A new strategy is available on the MFD. Copy.